Trigonometry have gone woke and they've upset their definitely not far-right audience. Let's get straight into the video.
Maybe the third, probably the second. No, definitely the second. Now that the election's over, I hear a lot of talking points that I've been saying myself for the last 2 or 3 years. I am your consumer. I am your voter base. I'm telling you what's the problem and you're just dismissing me. I want whoever's in that office to do right by American people, to do right by working class people. And right now I see a lot of working class people hurting.
Charlemagne, welcome to Trigonometry, man.
Hey, thank you for having me, man. What's happening?
It's great to have you. Listen,
My triggers.
we did at one point for one of our comedy shows, we had the idea of calling it Triggers with Attitude, but we didn't think we could get away with it.
I mean,
Cowards.
I don't know. I'm not. I would find it kind of funny, you know.
Yeah.
Triggers with attitudes. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's trigonometry.
Yeah.
You know, you might get a little flack. Who knows? I don't know how sensitive people are nowadays.
Pretty fucking sensitive,
Yeah.
especially in the UK, man.
Absolutely.
But anyway, it's good to have you on. Listen, one of the interesting things about you is, you know, you're in the Radio Hall of Fame, very successful. You've done incredibly well. But from very difficult beginnings, from what I've been reading, at one point, your dad wouldn't bail you out of jail for like 40 days.
Yeah, I was a hard-headed little kid, and you know, growing up in Moss Corner, South Carolina, being involved in a lot of things I didn't have no business being involved in. It started with me getting in trouble in school. So I had already gotten kicked out of one school, which was Berkeley High School in Moss Corner, South Carolina. But you know, the assistant principal there at the time, her name was Miss Sadie Brown. She believed in me, so she was like, "Listen." I didn't even go to the expulsion hearing. I went to class like I didn't even have an expulsion hearing. Didn't tell my parents about it or nothing like that. And so she was like, look, let's not expel him. Let's just transfer him to, you know, Stratford High School. That's where his mom teaches at. You know, maybe him being in the same school that his mom taught at will, you know, keep him on the straight and narrow. I mean, I guess it did for a little while, but I was still, you know, kicking it with my homies who was, you know, in the street at the time. Because this is when around the time where all of us was either dropping out of school or those of us that were still in school were like juniors and seniors. So we was like right there, 17, 18 years old. And I got arrested from Stratford High School because I was in the back seat of a car and one of my homeboys shot at somebody. And so the guy that he shot at was actually somebody who went to the school I went to, Stratford High School. And so they came and arrested me from class that day. And so I went from sitting in high school, my junior year or senior year, it wasn't a senior year, I never made it to my senior year. So like my double sophomore year, because I don't think I made it to my sophomore year because I got left back twice. So my double sophomore year, went from straight to high school to a holding cell, and I stayed there for 45 days because my dad was trying to teach me a lesson.
Well, it worked, right? Because when you came out,
No, not the first time.
No,
like
the
the second time. Maybe the third, probably the second. It was definitely the second. It was definitely the second because the second time I went to jail, this one I got.
I can see why the audience doesn't like this one, because when you actually hear people with a different experience than you, how difficult it is, the struggles you go through, it's hard not to empathize with people. And the comments below this, if you need proof, obviously you know this, if you're watching this, that it's pretty much, trigonometry is a far-right echo chamber. You look at the guests they have on, pretty much mostly far-right content creators. They'll have the odd kind of centrist, but mostly it's, you know, the far-right content kind of mill, the standard people. This did not get many views. Trigonometry gets 200, 300,000. I think this has got about 60,000 views. The comments, hate this guy. Just like the idea that you have someone on with a different opinion. And he's a Democrat. Seems like a conventional Democrat. They hate it. And I'm not saying that left is an echo chamber, but the point of my channel is to literally listen to the other side and engage with it. And most, I'd say, now probably do agree with me, my audience, but I still have people who come in and comment and stuff like. But you look at the standard comments on a trigonometry, it's just agreeing with the video. Like, people usually like, I'm not going to comment on the videos. I'll cover the videos, but I'm not going to comment and like try and engage. But yeah, you can kind of see why people are upset with this video, because they don't want to listen. They don't want to engage with the other side. And that's where now it's harder than ever to have a real discussion.
got into selling, a little bit of dope, and I was selling crack, and I was involved in a drug bust. So it was like 15 of us that ended up, going to the Berkeley County Detention Center. And I remember sitting in the holding cell, and that was when I was like, all right, I can't live like this no more. Like this got to change. And my dad used to always tell me, man, in order to change your life, you got to change your lifestyle. And so that's what really made me say, this is it. I'm done. I'm really gonna start doing different things. Because, my dad would always say, if you don't change your lifestyle, you're gonna end up in jail, dead, or broke sitting under a tree. And when you start to see that actually happen to people around you, you start going to jail yourself, people that are actually going to prison. I was just in the detention center. People were actually going to prison for 5 years. And, you see people around you actually dying, and you see people around you that you used to look up to literally sitting under a tree, broke, not doing anything with their life. You kind of snap out of it real quick if you got sense. I always say smart people learn from their own mistakes, wise people learn from the mistakes of others. I don't always have to, make the mistake to learn from it. I can watch other people go through it, and that's what happened.
One of the hard things when you get into bad habits.
How could you not like this guy? He's giving a good story. Maybe it doesn't hit the stereotypical tropes of a black person, and maybe in their head, like, oh, what? He's got a dad that kind of gave him some really good advice and helped him realize that he can change his lifestyle. I think this is going to be good. I'm really excited about this. I'm loving this so far.
Doing bad things is, in order to let that go, you'll have to let people go as well. Like the people who are around you who are into that stuff. Was that difficult? Did you have to do that?
It wasn't difficult because I had just found a girlfriend.
Okay.
And so I just found a girlfriend, and she didn't live in Moncks Corner. She lived like in another town, it was Goose Creek, Latson area. And so when you have, you rather be with your girl anyway than be with a bunch of guys, right? So, you spending a bunch of time with your girlfriend, that helps to shift the lifestyle. That helps to change the lifestyle. So it is, I guess, difficult, but it's not difficult when you have something better to do. And, one vagina beats 5 dicks all day. if you're heterosexual,
Has that changed the way that you view the world because of the past experiences of being in jail? Like, a lot of people talk about jail and a lot of people talk about incarceration, but you've experienced it. So you've got a real world knowledge of it. Has that changed the way you see things?
Well, once again, I've never been to prison, you know what I mean? But I've been to the Berkeley County Detention Center, where you wearing the orange jumpsuit. I was there for 45 days. So it's definitely jail. But yeah, it helps you to change. It helps you to see the world differently because, you have a lot more grace for people who come from certain environments because, I was able to turn my life around and, become who I am today. Anybody can do that with the right opportunity and the right guidance. I think that sometimes, we punish people and we cancel people for things that they were never even taught, right? We never even took the time to teach this next generation. Like if we talk about how bad the youth is, then we failed somewhere. You know what I mean? Like if we talk about how bad these kids are, then what have we not been doing? Clearly we haven't been instilling in this next generation the wisdom that they need. Like even though my dad, had his own issues when it came to, the law, and he had his own issues when it came to mental health, he was always on my ass to be better. I say all the time, my dad raised me out of fear and not love because it was the fear that I would become like him. He wanted me to be better than him. So he was always on me. Like he was a disciplinarian. He was always on me to educate myself. He was always telling me, yo, you're gonna end up just like these guys. You end up in jail, dead, or broke sitting under the tree. You need people to constantly be on you like that. And some people are smart enough to listen to those who came before them and learn, and some of them are not. And, they make poor choices.
It's a really important point because I think one of the things really affecting not only the US, but also the UK, and this is all communities and demographics, is a lack of fatherlessness. I was working in a part of East London, ironically called Stratford, near Stratford. Wow. And, I could tell the kids that were struggling, the kids that weren't going to do well, or not just do well, but not fulfill their potential, were the ones who didn't have a father around. It was just so obvious.
I mean, listen, we talk about girls who end up being whores, and we say, they didn't have a pops. So what happens to guys who don't have a father either? Like, I'm sure it's the same type of mentality, right? Like you need a man, you need a strong man in your
I mean, this is true, and it's a dicey thing to talk about because the reasons why there's a lot of fatherless houses in America, in the UK, it is complicated. There's economic factors, there's cultural changes. Now, no fault divorces. 40 years ago, if a woman was in an abusive relationship, she pretty much had to, her parents would probably tell her to suck it up, continue the relationship. Now, women have the freedom of choice to leave and have more autonomy. And someone commented the other day, I was like, well, why do so many men abandon their children? And their comment was, well, women instigate most divorces. But why do they instigate the divorces? That's the question. And that's complicated. And that's not always to say the man's the bad guy. But if women are instigating the divorces, I think we've got a problem there. And it's complicated. It's deeply complicated. There is different factors here. But just to blame the women and say, oh, see, if women weren't divorcing the men, we need to ask the question, but why? Why are women instigating? What's happening to those women where they go, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore? That's the question we need to ask. But
life, you need a strong woman in your life to have that balance, And I talk about my daddy issues all the time. Like one of my first breakthroughs in therapy, where I'm boohoo crying, was because I was saying to myself, damn, my dad used to discipline me for things that he never taught me, right? So how you gonna discipline your
wow, that's
young
good.
teenage son for things for not knowing things or making mistakes when you had the opportunity to teach him?
Wow, I like that. And again, you can see why people are upset with this because they've never had that. Like, that's probably bringing up a lot of stuff unconsciously for the audience. It's like, yeah, how can you teach or don't do that? Like, what are they doing? Like, you see this so many times where parents are like, oh, their children are being annoying. They're doing the wrong thing. Well, are they aware of what they're doing? Often they're not. Are you even aware of what you're doing? Like, you need to communicate with your children and be like, right, this is this. This is what I expect of you. Boundaries. And I just think it's hard to be a parent and we're not taught this stuff. No one teaches you how to place secure boundaries. A lot of this stuff was, and it wasn't great, was handed down from parents to generation. You just did what your parents did. Now people are like, well, they'll read books, there's conflict information, you do this, oh no, this trend. It's complicated. And there's no easy answers for this stuff. But I like the fact that he's actually going like, yeah, how do you discipline and guide people and tell children they're right or wrong when you've not even taught them what is good and what is bad? Because people don't. It's kind of insane, really.
So that's why I don't think we do the next generation any favors by keeping secrets. I don't think we, do our kids any favors by keeping secrets. And to your point, I don't respect no man who's not in his child's life. Like you can't treat children like, a candy wrapper. Like you eat the candy bar and just throw the wrapper and don't give the wrapper down. Like you can't eat the pussy, put your dick in it, nut in it. She gets pregnant.
I'm sorry, that is true. Like the woman looks after the child. She doesn't get to do that. Not to say in all cases, some women will. The dad will, but 99% of the time, it's the mum who has to then take up the childcare. The dad was there, and I agree. I have no respect for the men either. But they always flip it onto the woman. It's like, well, woman asked for the divorce, and it's like, but yeah, but it takes two people. It takes two people to raise a child. And maybe more, like really, like a community. And that's why it is hard to have kids because we evolved in tribes of 150. This notion of the nuclear family isn't helpful either because it just relies on two people. That's a lot of strain on a relationship, a lot of strain on a family. You need the wider community to raise a child, the grandparents and the actual community. And we've got that's the real thing we need to be talking about, the lack of community and how as a society we all raise children. People don't like, oh, don't talk to my child. Don't. It's like, it's so strange, our relationship with how we bring up children. We don't do it. And he is right to say it's a secret. Like, how many parents openly communicate with their children today? We've seen it with adolescents. Like, very few people do. They just let the kids go on the iPad and they're on doing their own thing. And it's like, it's dangerous.
The baby and you just disappear. Like, who are you?
That was the thing that shocked me when I became a father just under 3 years ago now. It's like how any man can walk away from that and feel good about himself. I can't, I'm not judging really, although maybe I am to some extent, but I just can't relate. I don't get it.
Different level of sociopath.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to diagnose no.
I don't think it's sociopathic. I think it's just the expectations of men. They can just get away with it. I don't think these men are necessarily bad or evil. I think it's just that it's just expected. Like, if you do that, it's just assumed that, oh, it's okay. The mother can be the one who brings up the child because that's what they do, isn't it? Like, men aren't the caregivers. We've not built that in society. So we've built the idea that you can just leave. The mother probably will be okay. But it is complicated, and to say it's individualize it, I don't think is helpful. There will be some individual people who just don't care, but I think it is more sociological and economic, and the relationship between the genders, like the expectations. Women are just expected to look after the children. A man, knocks up a woman pregnant, it just falls onto the mother, which is wrong.
Nobody, but there's no way you watch your child come into this world. I watched all 4 of my beautiful daughters by the same woman, by the way. That's very important to say. My beautiful wife. I watched all of my daughters come into this world. There's no way you watch that experience. There's no way you hug your child. There's no way you kiss your child, be around your child, watch your child's first steps, listen to your child's first words. There's no way you experience that and walk away from it if you're not some type of like sociopath, like psychopath almost. Like this, I don't understand it.
I just don't agree with that. I think if you've been neglected as a child, maybe you get a woman pregnant, which is easy to do. She wants to keep it. Maybe you don't, and that's the end of the relationship. And I don't think you're necessarily a psychopath or sociopath not to want that child, and maybe don't want to be with a partner. But I think, maybe that man's not ready. Maybe, he's unable to look after the child. Maybe he didn't have a good relationship with his dad. I think there is a lot of complex things going on here, and it's easy just to boil it down to one side or the other. But I think this is, it's a problem of modernity, essentially. Just how complex things are. Back in the past, people romanticize it like, oh, people were happy in families. No, they weren't. The men weren't happy, the women weren't. The kid. We're not going back to 200 years ago, Victorian times, 100 years ago. We've got to look forward, and these discussions are good. I will actually say fair play to Trigonometry for this. Like, usually what they do is just immigration stuff, and, it seems to me they haven't got an angle necessarily. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but this is a good discussion.
Because it's not only the damage that it does to you, but it's the damage to the kid, but the damage it does to society. You just see it. I saw the kids that I taught. The ones that were going into gangs were the ones who didn't have a dad around. For 2 reasons. Number one, because when a boy gets to a certain age, mum can't control them. And number 2, because you need a father like you had, like we had, to go, don't do this. You do this, this is what's going to happen.
That's right. It's really just that simple. It's like
It's not just the father, though. It's the whole of society. It's the community. It's the culture. It's films. It's television. It's what they're surrounded by. And if they're surrounded by Andrew Tate and certain influences online, maybe they're not the best role models. So, it's not just on the father. That's a lot of response. Oh, it's like, well, what about the neighbors? What about the street? What about the town, the city? There's complicated factors here. And a lot of it's just economic, like poverty. If you're born into poverty, there's just a really good likelihood that you're probably more likely to get into crime, more likely to get mental health issues, get into alcoholism, addiction, gambling. That's what we need to tackle. And to individualize it doesn't really solve anything, really. Just to say, oh, these are bad men, doesn't really solve it.
It's like the yin and the yang, right? Like, we talk about
Oh, I don't
the
like that.
sacred
Don't like that.
masculine and the divine feminine, or the
Nah, I don't like this stuff. I don't. It's just no, because it's way more complicated. That they say a community brings up a child, and I really believe that. It's not just that's too much pressure, and if you work, both parents work full time. It's a lot of strain on an individual, and you wonder why relationships break up. And then you have father. So it's less pressure on families because they are struggling. Like, it's hard to have a family. Like, who can afford a family now? A lot of young people don't, and they don't have families. So it's the economic thing we really need to be focused on. But trigonometry is unable to talk about the economics because they're pro-capitalist, they're pro-market. They want more of this stuff, not less of it. So this is where they ideologically are unable to discuss this in a kind of meaningful way.
divine masculine and the sacred feminine. You need both. Like, we as human beings are made of two ingredients, male and female. It took both of them to make us. So imagine when you have the absence of one and you got to grow up as a
Yeah, but we came up with these terms, male and female. Like, they're two arbitrary distinctions. Yes, there's biological difference, but we literally come from females. We are a female zygote in the womb. Does that mean I've got nipples? Does that mean I'm a woman? I mean, if I identify as a woman, I'm a woman. That's the thing. We come up with these things. There's no natural, inevitable thing about what a man is and what a woman is. And again, a flaw of the analysis here.
a boy to a young man and then try to figure out how to be a man. Like, it's just those little simple things that you miss, right? And yeah, I feel like a lot of times, often even in my own personal life, I didn't have the father-son relationship that I would have loved to have with my dad. Now, mind you, my dad is still alive, but man, sometimes I get around my pops and I turn back to that little boy who just wants my daddy's approval, and it makes me uncomfortable. It just does, like, because as you get older, what you're gonna realize is that, every day, all you're doing is realizing it's a constant battle between your adult life and your inner child. So it's things that happen to you in your adult life that you can trace directly back, to your childhood. So it's almost like you become the father to your 5-year-old self, your 10-year-old self, your 15-year-old self, your 20-year-old self, because that self, at least for me, didn't necessarily have my pops there the way that I wanted to. But that's for a number of reasons. My dad had his own issues, and that's why I give him a lot of grace, because he tried, but he was busy battling his own issues. He had his own substance abuse issues. He had his own mental health issues. I didn't find out about his mental health issues until 2018. To 2018, he told me that
That's sad.
he been going to therapy. He was going to therapy 2 and 3 times a week. He was on 10 to 12 different medications for, his mental health. He tried to commit suicide 30 plus years ago. I didn't know any of that. But when I found that out, it allowed me to give him a lot of grace, because I realized he was just a man trying to figure things out the way I'm a man just trying to figure things out.
Well said, man. Well, anyway, enough of the sad stuff, right? You've had a great career. How did that happen? How did you get...
First of all, I love the youth.
That's such a male response. Enough of the sad stuff. Like, I want to hear more of that. I want to hear more of the sad stuff.
Okay, by the way, because y'all just get right to the punches. Okay, enough of the sad shit. Right? Okay, goddamn it. Cry me a motherfucking river. Okay, your daddy wasn't in your life. Whoop-de-woo. Right?
The daddy issues. Oh, no.
Daddy issues.
No, you know what, man? Just for the seriousness of it, I will say I really respect that you talk about this shit. And
Absolutely.
I think, especially if you're like a masculine man, it's looked down upon, and the fact that you're bringing that up and we can talk about it, I think that's great.
Absolutely.
I think that's great. But I also want to look at some of the success you've had.
Is it being a masculine man? Look, not really. Like, people celebrate masculinity. Like, if someone's like ripped, they're confident, they're a bit like, is it? Like, people do like that. Like, there's problems with it that can lead to men not talking about mental health issues, men suppressing stuff, and a lot of the expectations on men aren't good for their mental health. But like, people do celebrate masculinity. Like, they do. Like, a strong, confident man, an entrepreneur, someone who's successful, like, not in a way that's like desperate, like Andrew Tate, but someone who's like quietly confident, like, trying to think of an example of a masculine, like Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy's masculine, but he's bisexual, he's intelligent, he's liked by a lot of people. He kind of transcends. I mean, maybe he's more progressive, but people like him. Probably some people on the right don't like him, but he's a masculine guy who people celebrate and like. I mean, okay.
One of the things I find really cool about you is like, Francis and I, we like to rub a few people up the wrong way and talk about difficult issues on our show. And you've always had that in your career as well. You've been...
No, you just do what everyone else does. You just rub people up in a way like, oh, you're just doing what everyone else does. Like, you're just doing the same stuff. You're not rubbing people up and going like, oh, look who's got all the power and money and making us fight between each other. It's like they just do anti-immigration, anti-Muslim stuff. This isn't revolutionary stuff. Like, I could be a massive channel if I did that. Like, I could so easily. It's so easy to do.
I mean, cancelled, not cancelled, I don't know what it is, but like, you've always had that attitude as well, right?
The prince of pissing people off?
That was my moniker. You know what I did? I call it the Eminem and 8 Mile theory. Like, you own whatever it is people say about you. So when people used to be like, God damn, he's an asshole. Well, oh my God, he makes me sick. Yeah, I'm the ruler of rubbing you the wrong way. The prince of pissing people off, the architect of aggravation, And so there was a time I would purposely push buttons. And, I don't purposely push them now, but they still get pushed.
Yeah.
So maybe I am a natural asshole. I don't strive to be.
That's not my read. I don't think that's not my read of you at all. I think you probably rub people up the wrong way and push buttons by saying things that make them uncomfortable, but you think are true. That's my read on it.
Yeah, and I'm just like not smart enough to like navigate a room with big words. You know how like you have these people that like to use these big 25-letter Shakespearean words because they think it makes them sound smarter.
English people.
Yeah, for me, I just like to get right to the point. And I think sometimes just getting right to the point comes off as harsh.
You know what? I sometimes think the reason that people use...
What are they talking about here specifically? I'd like to know what... Because I think you can rub people the wrong way and the right way. I think you can do it in a way that's provocative and like evidence-based and questioning power. I think it has to be questioning like power and assumptions. Like, why do we do it this way? Is it inevitable? Is it good for us? Does it amplify and augment our well-being? If not, should we get rid of it? But I don't think trigonometry does that in a useful way. They just do it in a like, oh, we kind of go with the times and let's get clicks. There's people are angry about immigration. Let's do immigration. Let's not actually, get into the nitty-gritty of it, how complicated it is, and how being against immigration is like kind of being against the economy. Like, imagine being like, are you pro-economy or not? It's like, what? It's such a silly argument. It's a natural thing. It ain't going away. People move around. It's okay.
Use those 25-letter words is to make themselves look more intelligent, but also it's to actually disguise and hide what they're actually saying. Because if you break down what they're actually saying and you take those big words out, you go, you're not actually saying anything of value.
Who are you talking about? Russell Brand here? Like what? Like what?
Exactly. And I'm just not that smart. Like I'm just not, I don't know those words. I know some of them. You know what I mean? So I would just rather ask you the question in my plain, basic terms. That's it.
Well, one of the things I want to ask you in the current climate, obviously things are very heated politically. And the first time I saw the recent thing of yours was with Josh Shapiro, who I find a very interesting person on the left.
I like that guy a lot.
Interesting guy. But where are you political yourself? Are you neutral? Do you stay out of it? Like, what do you see?
I got a great friend. She's really big in America. Her name is Nina Turner, former senator of Ohio. fantastic human being. And she always says, you know, you don't have to do politics because politics is going to do you. So, you know, you can sit around and, you know, ignore politics and say you're not a political person. If you pay taxes, you're a political person. If you live in a country where there's a democracy, you're a political person, whether you want to be or not, because, you know, the legislation that's passed, the things that democracy is doing will impact you. So, yes, yeah, I am a political person. I'm a political person, number one, because I do really enjoy it. You know, politics has become pop culture.
It has.
You know, since Obama. You know, well, actually, the 90s with Bill Clinton when he was playing the saxophone on Arsenio Hall and getting blowjobs in the Oval Office. Like, that was pop culture. It's like, oh, like those are references you hear on comedy shows and rap albums, all of that type of stuff. But then Obama really became a superstar celebrity by doing the work, not because he was seeking it or, you know, wanting the attention. He was just doing the work. First black president. Then comes the actual executive producer of Celebrity Apprentice, a real life celebrity. America's obsession with celebrity caused them to elect the executive producer of Celebrity Apprentice. So therefore, it really became, you know, pop culture, and he's been the main star of politics since, you know, 2016. So I really do enjoy it. I enjoy watching CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and, you know, watching the Young Turks on YouTube. And, you know, I watch Jon Stewart's Daily Show
Enjoys an interesting word.
and the Weekly Show. I like watching the Native Land podcast. All of these different places I go to get, you know, entertainment news. I watch political news. I watch Candace Owens. You know, I watch it's I'm blanking on the name right now.
Anthony Jones.
Patrick David.
Patrick Bet
yeah.
David.
Patrick Bet David.
Yeah.
You know, I watch all of that stuff because it's entertaining. You know, and you know, you do get informed, and I like to watch all sides. Like, I'm not just watching
Candace Owen, you did not get informed.
what's happening on the left. I'm watching what's happening on the right. I want to hear what everybody is talking about.
And where do you come out? Are you happy about Trump being elected and the things he's doing? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not happy. I'm just indifferent because I didn't vote for Donald Trump. You know, I voted for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Okay, when was this recorded? Because he can't be indifferent with the tariffs, the economy, consumer confidence, illegal deportations, Doge. He can't be indifferent. So I'm going to assume this is probably recorded maybe a month ago, maybe a little bit more. I have to assume that. These take time to edit. Yeah.
Harris, but at the end of the day, I'm still an American. So during campaign season, you know, everybody can say they're left, right. I'm registered as an independent, but you know, everybody can say they're left, everybody can say they're right. But when that person wins, we're all on the same team, which is Team America. And so it's just like, yeah, I want was
Good film, that. But that's not what America's been since Nixon. Nixon really started this divisive politics where, like, Republicans are like, Democrats are the enemy. And Trump does that. Trump talks about the enemy within. And that's how we get to this place where we can't really have a sensible conversation about what Trump's doing. Because then any criticism of Trump is like, oh, that's mainstream media misinformation. No, it's not. He is actually doing this. He is doing these things. How do you feel about it? And they are in a cult. I'm sorry. They are in a cult. They will justify anything Trump does. He said I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose a vote. That's not democracy. Sorry, it's not. We can't deal with this. We can't deal with this Nixon, Reagan, Trump-esque politics that just seeks to divide America between the good guys and the bad guys. It is. Like, it... But it's only going to get worse before it gets better.
what's best for the country. I want, you know, to see I want whoever's in that office to do right by American people, to do right by working class people. And right now I see a lot of working class people hurting. You know, when I see what, you know, Doge is doing, you know, firing all of those federal workers, man. I was down in Maryland a few weeks ago for my daughter's cheerleading competition, and the amount of people who were coming up to me telling me they either had lost their job or they may lose their job, that hurts. When you see people complaining about, you know, the high price of groceries, the high price of, just any type of consumer good, that hurts to hear, especially when he ran on the economy. He literally said, I ran and won by using one word: groceries.
Yeah.
That's what he said. So if the price of groceries is sky high, if inflation is high, if people are losing their jobs, if the economy's messed up, that's not good for us as a people.
And tariffs are going to hurt. They are, objectively. Any economist knows this, that tariffs aren't what Trump thinks they are. And it's going to increase prices. Obvious. It's just so obvious.
Working class people are hurting. So I can't, no, that's not good for us right now.
And this is a thing that I don't understand. And we've got the exact same problem in the UK, by the way. And now, the three of us sitting around this table are very fortunate. We're very fortunate and we're very lucky.
That was interesting. There's no pushback there. Are Trigonometry trying to hedge their bets here and go, oh God, maybe the tide's going to push back? Because it will. The pendulum swings back and forth. I think they will. Like Trump, next year, midterms, if they even happen, they probably won't even happen. Trump's going to try and run for a third term. What's the world going to look like in a couple of years' time? No idea. Are they hedging their bets?
Absolutely.
But when you go into a supermarket, I just pick things up and I go, I don't understand how people are meant to afford this. When I was a teacher, I was on very low wages. I dread to think how I would have been able to not even live, just exist nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why is that? Why is that? Well, different factors, inflation, war in Ukraine. There's different factors. But inequality is the main one. Like, why aren't teachers paid properly? Why can't people afford food? It's not immigration. It's not, you can boil it down to immigrants being here, but if they went, prices would not be lower. So let's have a serious discussion. But this is the limit of the discourse now. You can't really have a real discussion about inequality, the economy, how capitalism is failing the average person. They can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford education. What jobs do we have? What's the economy? We are a deeply divided country economically. We're poor. We're the 6th richest country on the planet. And most people in the UK, the majority, are struggling. Even the middle classes are struggling to some extent. It's unprecedented. How do we get out of this? We need a radical change. People want radical change, but they're not being offered it. And that's why we have fascism. That's why people are being pulled towards fascism. And it's not an individual thing. These aren't necessarily bad people. I'm not saying you're a fascist, you're a bad people. I'm saying this is a historical tendency, a cognitive bias towards nativism, towards anti-intellectualism, towards nationalism, towards some kind of nativism where we just need to protect ourselves and we'll be okay. The other is the problem. Trans people, immigrants, lefties, communists. This is a historical tendency and we need to fight it and go, right, we can do better. But it means we've got to think about what the economy is, who benefits most, and who benefits least, and change it based on that, like economy that works for people.
I think about that all the time because my mother was an English teacher, right? Growing up in Konstantin, South Carolina. And I remember one time she told me the most she made in a year was $30,000.
That's nothing in
she
America.
She had 5 kids. It was my older sister, it was me, my 2 younger brothers.
To be fair, back then, if that was 20, 30 years ago, whatever, with inflation, that probably was okay. Americans actually get paid more than British people, which is interesting. I think living's more expensive. Rent, I think a lot of people rent. But yeah, that's for a teacher.
And my younger sister, we lived in a single wide trailer for a long time. And like I said, my dad was a hard-working person, but at times he wasn't there because he was, battling his own substance abuse issues and stuff like that. So I always wondered, like, man, how did we make it? Because, I didn't pay attention to the cost of groceries. You know what I paid attention to? Having $5 and being able to go in a Food Lion in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, and buying a 99-cent box of oatmeal cream pies, and it was 12 in a box, and buying a 3-liter freaking orange soda or grape soda for another 99 cents. So plus tax, it was $1.04. I remember being able to go to McDonald's and getting 2 cheeseburgers and a large fry for $2.99, which came out to like $3.14. I remember when the tax increased on that, and because at one point it was like 305 was.
Okay, we get the point. It's expensive, but why? Like, how? What can we do about it? That's the thing. It's very easy to say this, but capitalism's is the problem. Like, and we need to convince the political class, which ain't going to happen because they're in the pockets of the bankers, the wealthy. How do we do this? It's discontent. People need to get sick of it, and their kind of anger needs to be redirected at the establishment. It's not at the moment. Nigel Farage is the establishment. Trump is the establishment. Zuckerberg, Bezos, Peter Thiel. Somehow these are the freedom fighter guys. It's insane. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Hit the like button and I'll see you next time.